Hello everyone, it's me Uncle John. Today I am going to read S66033, Muffy's Secret Admirer, Chapter 5. What's the matter, Muffy? Francine asked as Muffy stormed over to her during afternoon recess. What's the matter? I'll tell you what's the matter. Suellen is trying to steal my secret admirer. Really? I didn't know you had already figured out who it is. Well, not completely, Muffy admitted. She pointed to a game of kickball. But I have narrowed it down to someone playing in that game. So Ellie and I were discussing the possibilities when the ball was kicked to us. She kicked it back, and they asked her to play. Now she's showing off. So, said Francine, so my secret admirer is out there. What if he's impressed by the brute strength? I'm sure he's more loyal than that, said Francine. Hey, I don't want to take any chances. This secret admirer business can be very tricky, Francine. I can't wait too long to answer him. Francine fidgeted a little. But he's a secret admirer, Muffy. Maybe he wants to keep it that way. Muffy dismissed this idea with a wave of her hand, so I don't believe that. It was just a way to get my attention, so what will you do? Muffy had that figured out. I'm going to hire Buster right away. He's a detective. He can find out who it is. Then I won't have to wonder anymore. Francine looked worried. Buster was a pretty good detective. He had once figured out the truth about Arthur and the missing quarter. What would he discover this time? Has she left any clues for Buster to find out? Francine and the Brain were standing in the prisoner's box before the judge. They each wore striped pajama and had a ball and chain attached to an ankle. The judge sat on a high bench before them. He was wearing the powdered white wig, but there was something familiar about him. You look like my teacher, Mr. Rappan. Francine told him. Silence, roared the judge. In my court, you will speak only when ordered to do so. Continue, sir. He pointed to Arthur, who was interviewing a witness. Arthur was wearing a wig too. He kept wrinkling his nose. Francine decided the wig powder must be itchy. Your name, please, said Arthur to Buster Baxter. And your occupation? Buster sat up straight in the witness chair. Private detective. He said he handed Arthur a business card and gave one to the judge, too. No case is too small, he boasted, to occupy my full attention. Yes, yes, said Arthur. Now tell us, Mr. Baxter, what did you discover after being hired by Muffy Crosswire? Buster consulted a small notepad. After getting this assignment, I quickly determined that Francine and the Brain were responsible. He looked up at Francine. It was child's play. The judge slammed down his gavel. That's all the evidence I needed to hear guilty as charged. As Francine and the Brain were dragged from the courtroom, Francine called out, it was just a joke, but nobody even smiled. Chapter 6. Francine found the Brain sitting against a tree. He was drawing in his notebook. Francine could just make out a stick figure inside the laboratory during a thunderstorm before the Brain closed the cover. Don't you love it when a plan comes together? He said. Our plan isn't coming together, she told him. It's falling apart. Impossible. The Brain stood up. We cannot fail. Francis snorted. You hope. Maybe our letter was a little too convincing. I mean, it really stirred up Muffy's curiosity. She can't wait to find out who her secret admirer is. Of course not. That's what we had hoped. I know, but we didn't hope that she would hire Buster to investigate. Brain paused for a moment. Unexpected, but not important. Buster is good, but he'll never trace anything to us. A detective needs clues to learn something, and I am too clever to have left any clues. Oh, really? Well, Arthur figured out that you wrote the note. He didn't think anyone but you could use regardless correctly. The Brain was not impressed. Just a fluke. he maintained. Now, for phase 2, he consulted his notebook. We need to take the next step. Which do you prefer, candy or flour? Francine glared at him. What's wrong with you? We're in a big enough mess already. I don't want it to get any bigger. Brain just laughed. My scientist, Dr. Brain, straightened his lab coat as he stood at the computer screen blackboard, finishing an equation. Oh, the dealing with Muffy Crossfire will be the final test before I unleash my plan for taking over the world. He cackled quietly as lightning flashed outside the window. Isn't that right, my loyal assistant? From the shadow, a peasant girl in rags stepped up. I guess so, master, Francine said quietly. Louder, shouted Dr. Brain. I can, she said. And why not? Because I am not sure. Dr. Brain turned on her. Not sure? Not sure? You dare to question me? Francine cringed at his tone, but she wouldn't change her mind. This crosswire girl worries me, she went on. She's used to getting her way, so am I. Dr. Brain reminded her, oh yeah, that's why we are stuck doing experiments in the crummy dungeon. Francine looked down, and boy, do I need a bath. Silence, cried Dr. Brain. Earth to brain, Francine snapped. The Brain rubbed his eyes. Sorry, he said. As I was saying, Francine continued, I think maybe we made a mistake. Just remember, said the Brain. We didn't start this, Muffy did. Well, what are we going to do about it? Tell the truth. And after coming up behind them, it's your best chance to keep the situation from getting worse. We are not that desperate, the Brain insisted. Francine wasn't so sure. Not yet, she muttered. Chapter 7. On the other side of the playground, Buster stood quietly, thinking. Hey, Buster, cried Muffy. Buster didn't answer. He was staring at the ground. Hello. Buster finally looked up. I'm concentrating, he explained. That's good, said Muffy. Now stop and tell me what you have found out about my secret admirer. Buster cleared his throat. It is too bad you waited so long to hire me. I didn't wait. This all happened today. Buster shook his head. Time is not the same for detectives as it is for other people. Anyway, I have examined the note. It is handwritten. I knew that. In block letters to disguise the handwriting. Muffy rolled her eyes. I knew that too. Then I examined your desk, which we detectives refer to as the crime scene, and the Buster shrugged. Unfortunately, the area has been contaminated. Too many footprints, said Muffy. Are you saying you have discovered nothing? Did I mention the book block letters? Muffy groaned. Some detective you are. If I had paid you already, I'd be asking for a refund. As Muffy and Buster talked, Francine and the Brain watched from behind the tire swings. Look at them, said Francine, going over every detail. To figuring out each pair of our scheme, it really wasn't that complicated, said the Brain. Francine bit her lip. Let's confess before it is too late. We can throw ourselves on the mercy of the court. Brain's eyes narrowed. You're being unrealistic. They'll never take us alive. Francine threw up her hands. Well, now I feel much better. What a mess this stupid note has caused. I wish she would have never written it. Hey, Francine. Arthur came running up to them. Hey, has Buster interviewed you yet? He's working his way through the class. Francine blinked. I know I'll crack like an egg under his questions. She looked down. There I'll be, in little pieces all over the playground. The Brain sighed. The thrill of revenge seems to be short-lived, he admitted. I suppose we should clear this up and apologize. Francine brightened. You mean it? I'll try, said the brain. How about this? He cleared his throat. Muffy, I'm sorry I allowed myself to get upset about the way you bribed the judges. Arthur frowned. I don't think that is quite right. It's missing a certain something. Like crawling on our knees and begging for forgiveness, said Francine. The brain cleared his throat again. Yes, I see your point. Let me try again, Muffy. I'm sorry, I couldn't let a huge injustice go unpunished. But I guess I had no choice. Francine just shook her head. Clearly, they had a long way to go. Chapter 8. By the end of lunch, Francine was just about worn out. She had tried to make progress with the brain, but her efforts had not been rewarded. I thought I was doing better, said the brain. Francine shook her head. Calling Muffy a fast-talking bamboozler is not doing better. Did I hear my names? Asked Muffy, coming around the corner. No. Francine and the brain said together. Oh, well, it doesn't matter. She beamed at them. I have important news. I found out who wrote the note. You did? Said Francine. Well, we can. And I've taken steps to follow up. Muffy went on. Steps? The brain repeated. What kind of steps? I wrote a note back saying that while he has good taste, a love between us can never be. That's quite a note. Francine admitted. Can I see it? Oh no. I already put it in his locker. Francine and the brain gasped. An impulsive decision. Very, added Francine. Whose locker did you put it in? Rattles. Rattles? The kid with all those muscles even in his head? Muffin nodded. Poor thing. I know I'm breaking his heart. But when you fall in love, you take your chances. Well, see you later. She walked off, leaving Francine and the brain gasping for air. This really is a mess, the brain admitted. I'll say, said Francine. Rattles will pulverize her. If he reads that note, I try to warn you, said the brain. Writing that note was ill-advised. Francine gaped at him. You try to warn me? The brain smiled weakly. Never mind, he said. This is no time for finger-pointing. It's time for action. He led Francine to Rattle's locker. Now what? We're on the outside and the note is on the inside. The brain pressed his eye to the vents. I can't see anything. Francine scratched her head. What if we stick some gum to a piece of string and then drop the string through the vent? The note might stick to it and we could pull it out. You actually think that would work? Francine shrugged. It's our last hope. When you put it like that, said the brain, I say we give it a try. Where's the gum? Francine quickly chewed a stick of gum and attached it to some string from her pocket. Here goes. She tried to push the gum through one of the slots. Unfortunately, it got stuck on the way. Uh-oh, she said. Wait a minute, said the brain. He opened his backpack, took out a piece of wire. I have this left over from my science experiment. He fished the wire under the locker door. If we are lucky, the note is sitting on the bottom. I may be able to snag. I've got something. He brought out a piece of paper. That doesn't look like. Francine began. It's not. This is a page from a bodybuilding magazine, he sighed. But Rattle won't be building any bodies in the near future. He will be taking some apart. And why is that? Francine and the brain jumped around. Rattles was standing before them. Chapter 9. I'm not going to ask you again, Rattles said. What are you doing at my locker? It's a good question, said Francine. Excellence, the brain agreed, concise to the point even. I'm waiting. Would you believe we are here because of the nice view? The brain asked. No, how about that? We are big fans, said Francine. We were waiting around to get your photograph. I don't think so, said Rattles. Why would you be fans of mine all of a sudden? I haven't done anything special lately. Your turn, she said. I'm thinking. He replied. Suddenly, Muffy appeared beside Rattles. What is going on here? I found these two trying to break in to my locker, Rattles explained. Really? Said Muffy, and I keep asking them why, but I haven't gotten the right answer yet. He folded his arms. And time is running out. But before it does, Muffy said calmly, I should tell you that they are here. Because of me. Rattle just stared at her. Oh yeah. So the maybe I should hold you responsible. He took a threatening step toward her. Now, said the Brian, darting between them. Let's not be hasty. It's not my fault. And if you must proprize someone, make it me. You see, the brain explained, we were Madame Muffy and wrote her a fake love note. She thought you wrote it and wrote your note back. Now it's in your locker, but you probably shouldn't read it. He and Francine looked at Rattles for a reaction. You expect me to believe a ridiculous story like that? It's not ridiculous. Use your imagination, brain suggested. That's what we did. Suddenly, Rattles started laughing. Then Muffy laughed too. Francine wanted to laugh with them, but first she wanted to know what was so funny. Did we miss something? You should have seen the locks on your faces, said Rattle. It's priceless, said Muffy. Maybe not priceless, but certainly worth a lot, Rattles agreed. You're right, Muffy. They did think you put a note in my locker. Oh, brother, I think we've been set up, said the brain. Francine looked at Muffy. You mean we wrote the note? Not at first, that's why I hired Buster, but I also noticed how worried Arthur looked every time he talked to you. And he kept mumbling about telling the truth, so I added things up. Then I asked Rattles for a favor. Francine wanted to say something. She was partly mad and partly relieved. Chapter 10. As the bell rang, everyone filed back into class. We're sorry, we wrote the note, said Francine, having finally gotten over her shock. Morfinati, well, I can understand why you did it. You can? Certainly you're upset that I'm better than you at science. Brain took a deep breath. You may be better at winning contests, but you're not better at science. Muffy stopped to think about this. I don't see the difference. All right, everyone, said Mr. Rappon. Take your seat. It's time to announce the winner for the best display in the science fair. He held up a sheet of paper. The judges voted for the display. That was, well, let's say one of the tastiest. Muffy raised her head. Excuse me, Mr. Rappon. Yes, Muffy. I just wanted to say that I've been thinking. There is some news. The brain thinking. Brain murmured. Francine elbowed him in the side. Brain's project really was more scientific than mine. Muffy went on. I think he deserves the award. More than I do. Ooh, the class cried out. Mr. Rappon cleared his throat. Well, Muffy, he said, I suppose that's very noble of you. I guess she's not so bad after all. The brain whispered to Francine, I feel like a dope. Unfortunately, Mr. Rappon continued, you didn't win the contest, so I'm afraid the award isn't yours to pass along. What? Cried everyone. Muffy turned as red as a ruby ring. As I was saying, Mr. Rappon went on. Winner of the award for the best entry in the science page, Francine Francisci. He handed Francine a handsome plaque, which she displayed on her desk. Brain turned to her in surprise. You? All this time I was worried about Muffy, and you turned out to be the competition? How is that possible? Francine smiled sweetly at him. Maybe you just need to learn to cook. He said, the brain just rolled his eye. Congratulations, Francine. Muffy said quietly, the way things turned out, maybe I would have been better off with a secret admirer. After all, Francine smiled at a word. As you said before, it is food for thought.